Hi. Awesome. Hello, friends. My name is Miranda, and welcome back to my universe. Today, we're going to be talking about all of the book series that I want to read this year in 2025. For some reason, while I was kind of looking over my bookshelves and looking over all of the books that I want to read, I realized that I have so many series I want to read this year. Some of these series have been on my shelves for years and I have never picked them up. So this is going to be the year that all of that changes. This is going to be the year of series. I will be organizing this video by going over the series that I have the most urgency towards reading first. Without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, I have two series that I'm in the middle of reading right now, so I will talk about those first. Number one, the series that I need to finish this year, and I will finish it this year, is the Silo series. I am currently in the middle of reading Shift. This is a science fiction kind of post-apocalyptic series all about a society of people who live in a 144 level underground silo, and it is insanely good. This is number one on my priority list. And number two, which is so extremely close to number one, we have Fourth Wing. Now, I know the series is obviously not finished. The third book came out yesterday. I have yet to receive my pre-orders in the mail, so I'm just waiting on those right now. But that's okay, I can wait a little bit because I'm still in the middle of Iron Flame, and oh boy, this series is a doozy. Fourth Wing is an adult fantasy with a heavy romance subplot that talks about the society where there are riders and dragons, and there's a college where you choose what you want to do with your life. And we follow around our main character, Violet, who is a writer, and we follow her life around as she navigates the complex romantic feelings and a bit of love triangles, while also there's a literal war going on. So it's very good. I'm loving Iron Flame right now. I do have a little bit of mixed feelings, so as soon as I finish it, I will be posting a review, so don't worry about that. Series number three is a series I should have read ages ago, literally decades ago, but I haven't, so I'm going to read it now. Better late than never. I want to read The Inheritance Cycle by Chris Paolini. Now, I mainly have been hearing a lot of hype around this series lately because the new book Myrta is out, so I really need to give this a go. It's about dragons and magic. I don't know much else about you, Aragon. If the dragon's name is... I don't think the dragon's name is Aragon. Is it? Anyways, can anybody guess what the next step on my high priorities is? We got Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I own the entire series and have not read it. 2025 is the year of change. I will be reading this series. I know for a fact. One of my resolutions. Throne of Glass, I also don't know very much about. I do know that it's a fantasy series, and a lot of my really good friends and close family read this series and they love it. All right, and of course it wouldn't be a video from Miranda if I didn't talk about Stephen King. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with this series right now. I fell into my reading slump in 2023 while I was reading the second book in this series, and it has felt like I've been crawling out of a hole to finish the second book. And I finally did, and I started the third book, but that was months ago and I haven't picked it up again. So I'm really hoping that my passion reignites for this series because I loved the first and second book, even through all of my struggle. Please comment down below if you are a big fan of The Dark Tower by Stephen King. This is a fantasy slash maybe sci-fi series following around our main character, Roland, who is the gunslinger, as he navigates this world that is filled with multiple dimensions as he tries to track down the Dark Tower. As you can see, I do not have matching covers whatsoever. This series I completely thrifted except for maybe one or two of them. As you can see, I'm on the third book. I still have my bookmark in there. I just need fuel and encouragement to pick it back up again. All right, and next up we have a reread, because Lord knows that if I finish The Dark Tower, I'm going to be needing a good reread, and that will be Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is a young adult fantasy series that has a side plot of romance, and it is so magical is the only way I can describe it. It's very immersive. It's all about this magic carnival type game. Love it. Highly recommend. Following the Stephanie Garber train, we have her other series, Once Upon a Broken Heart. I have the third book in paperback on pre-order. That comes out in April. I've heard wonderful things about this series. I know it's also a fantasy novel. I've heard that it is written really similarly to Caraval, which, I mean, of course, it's by the same author, right? But also, if this world is anything like Caraval, I know I'm going to love it. Next up on the romance fantasy line, we have Shatter Me by Sabaa Tahir. I have not, as you can see, it's still unopened. I have not read this series ever. I want to see what's up. I want to learn more about this Aaron Warner character. I don't know. All I know about this series is our main character has a disease or a sickness of some form that means that every time she touches people, they die. So I don't know much else about this series. I do know that it's fantasy, and I do know that there's romance. And besides that, I don't understand. I don't know. So anyway, yes, Shatter Me. Great. Next on the lineup, An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. All I know about this series is that it is set in a kingdom, and there's a lot of dynamics between like soldiers and treason and rebels, things like that. I believe it is a fantasy. I believe it is young adult. I love this set of the series because the spines match. That's just so satisfying to me. They recently redid these covers too. I think they're so gorgeous. All right, next up, since I talked about Stephen King, what feels like forever ago, let's bring him up again. I want to reread the Gwendy trilogy, Gwendy's Button Box. I tried reading this series on ebook. I believe it was 2 years ago, and I hated it. But I do not like ebooks. So whenever I read an ebook, I feel like I just end up hating whatever book I'm reading. I finally got the full trilogy. I've only read the first two anyways, so I'm hoping because they're super short, I might as well dive into them again and give them another try. All right, we're on the last few series, okay? Let's keep pushing on. Next up, we have Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I recently found out about this series, and I know that there's going to be a third one. I don't know if there's going to be more. I believe the third one comes out this year, but Powerless is the first one and Reckless is the second. This is a young adult series that I believe takes place in a kingdom, and it is heavy with romance. But of course, young adult romance, which in my opinion is the best kind. I've seen a lot of controversy on this series, but also the people who really like these books tend to also like the other books that I enjoy. So very excited about these, despite all of the hate that for some reason people give them. I think it'll be a fun read. Another short and sweet series. This is a duology by one of my favorite authors ever. We have The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. Now, I love The Cruel Prince by her, and I've heard The Stolen Heir is not as good, and a lot of people compare the two, and so that's why people don't really like this one as much. However, I think that I have separated myself far enough from The Cruel Prince because I haven't read it in years that I will be able to tackle this series. I love the cover art on both of these. We all know how much I love pretty books. This is a series that is a fantasy, young adult. I don't know if there's romance in it, but I do know that it takes place in the elf world. So a lot of elves, a lot of royalty, a lot of different dynamics between kingdoms and various things like that. Lots of magical creatures. Following this young adult fantasy trend, we have Furyborn by Claire Legrand. I don't even know how many other TBR videos I have included this series in, but but it is way too much. Fury Born is a young adult fantasy series with a romance subplot, but there is a lot about kingdoms and fairy tales and bounty hunters. You probably think that I sound like a broken record because many of these series follow the same themes, but I have a feeling that this will be a very heavy young adult fantasy year for me, just because that's what I'm in the mood for. All right, and then we have yet another pretty long series here. This is one of my favorite series, and I've only read the first 3, but this is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a young adult mystery series. It is so good. I couldn't recommend this series more to everybody. The Inheritance Games is all about a very wealthy man in Texas who passes away, and he has a very big family who believes they all will get his inheritance, but turns out he gives his entire inheritance, all of his money, all of his properties, everything, to a complete stranger. So this series is all about our main character as she tries to navigate and figure out why he chose her, because it's not as random as we originally think it is. I've reread the core trilogy. I've read this twice. I'm in the middle of Brothers Hawthorne. I believe that you can see my bookmark in there still. I love this series. It's super easy to get into. I love the characters. I think they're all so charming. It's just a really good time. And then last, but certainly not least, I have a specific author I want to hop back into all of her worlds, and that is Leigh Bardugo. All of the various universes of Leigh Bardugo. I want to reread Six of Crows down here. This is a duology. So good. I also want to read all of her Grishaverse books as well. So I want to reread Shadow and Bone because it has been forever. And I want to reread King of Scars so I can pick up Rule of Wolves because this is a duology that follows around one of our characters that we meet in Shadow and Bone. I also have The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I know this is a standalone within itself, but I figured I would mention it as well anyways, because I do want to get into Leigh Bardugo's books again. Yeah, that's my TBR for this year. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you finished this video and you think that I still have other series that I need to read that I haven't mentioned or that I don't have on my shelves, please comment down below. I would love to hear. I love learning about new book series. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. I love you all. Please be safe, make good choices, and I will definitely be seeing you next time. Bye!